First thing you need to know is that camera exposure meters are dumb, and I mean really dumb. When I was a photographer, this was our exposure board, and we would take exposures and bracket half a stop, 3 stops in either direction. Then we'd go develop our film, and if we're really going to make life complicated, we would also make color prints, and if you use something like Cibachrome prints, you would actually be able to put yellow, cyan, and magenta filters into the enlarger and really make things complicated. But the point being is we would do all this to make sure that our final exposure, our final print, matched our exposure board. Well, Ansel Adams understood how difficult this was in getting a proper exposure because he understood how reflective light meters and cameras worked, and he created the zone system. And in the zone system, he goes from 0 to 10, where 0 is pure black and 10 is pure white. He was going up the value scale. And what he recognized is that most cameras metered at zone 5, which is middle gray. Okay? So if you pointed your camera and asked it to do an exposure of a scene outdoors in the snow, and you took that picture and exposed it and developed it, you would end up not with snow that is white, but snow that's gray, because the camera meter read middle gray. So let's ask our camera to take a picture of some shade tabs set on full automatic setting. So we're using the reflective light meter within the camera and asking it to determine what the proper exposure is. And here are the shade tabs against an 18% gray card. And you've got a usable image. How about if we ask the same camera, the same film, the same distance on a tripod, set it auto to take a picture against a white background? Well, this is the exposure you get after the camera's metered. And it doesn't matter if the camera has 1-point metering or 20-point metering. This is what you're going to get. And heaven help you if you decide to use a black background and take this image, because you're going to get a washed out shade tab, which is absolutely useless. Now, we know we can improve the exposure of our shade tabs by simply giving the camera less autonomy to do things. So in this case, we're going to TTL metering, and we're going to aperture priority. When you look at it, you can see that our shade tabs are still slightly different between white, gray, and black. So how do we improve our exposures? Well, the only way to truly do it is to use an incident light meter like this. And an incident light meter is metering the amount of light that's striking the object. And what you'll do is you'll place it alongside what you're shooting, your patient's face. You'll take your picture at a manual setting flash, and it'll read out the information that you should be setting your camera to. So if you were to use your reflective light meter, you would get the images on the left. A white plate would look grayish white, a gray plate would look gray, and a black plate would look grayish black. However, if you used an incident light meter, you would get the images that you see on the right, and these are set exposures. White is white, gray is gray, and black is black. And so using a completely manual setting on our camera, we can see using a white background, a gray background, and a black background that the exposure of our shade tabs are completely consistent. You know, the second thing you need to know is that our visual system is not very good at being a physical light meter either. Let's take a look at this image. I'm going to ask you 2 questions. The first is, are the 2 orange dots the same color? Now, most of you will say, okay, they're on different backgrounds, but yes, I believe them to be the same color. And indeed they are. The second question is, are the checks, are the squares that the orange dot's sitting on the same color? And most of you will say no, but indeed, the checks are the same color. And your eye is fooled because our visual system is taking a lot into consideration. It's looking at that green cylinder on the side and interpreting a shadow as being cast, and therefore making some assumptions. It is changing the information that's being interpreted.